To everyone watching from the outside, Sophia's life looked like a fairy tale. She was the beautiful young wife of Ethan Cole, a man whose wealth and influence stretched across the city. Their faces graced magazines, their hands always intertwined at charity galas, their smiles practiced and polished. But once the cameras stopped flashing, the truth was far from golden. Behind closed doors, Ethan's affection came with conditions. Silence, obedience, perfection. Sophia had traded her freedom for the illusion of love. Every word she spoke was measured. Every step she took was watched. When she found out she was pregnant, she cried tears of both joy and fear. She prayed the baby would soften Ethan's heart, that maybe fatherhood would bring back the warmth she once saw in his eyes. Instead, it unleashed something darker. His mood swings grew violent, his jealousy sharper, and his words crueler than ever before. He accused her of trapping him, of ruining his image. Each night she lay awake, hand on her stomach, whispering to the tiny life within her, promising protection she wasn't sure she could give. The mansion's golden walls had become her prison, and love her most painful illusion. The rain lashed against the windows that night, lightning slicing through the sky as if echoing the chaos inside the Cole mansion. Ethan stumbled through the door, the stench of whiskey heavy on his breath, his tie hanging loose around his neck. His eyes, once full of ambition, now burned with frustration and fury. Sophia approached cautiously, her hands trembling. "Ethan, please, you've had too much," she whispered, her voice soft and steady, trying to calm the storm in front of her. But he wasn't listening. His mind was consumed by the loss of a multimillion-dollar deal, by the whispers of betrayal in his business circle. "You're the distraction, Sophia," he roared, slamming a glass against the wall. "You and your pathetic emotions. Always crying, always weak." His words cut deeper than any wound, but the violence that followed broke her completely. When she tried to defend herself, his hand struck her across the face with brutal force. The second blow sent her crashing onto the cold marble floor. Pain ripped through her abdomen, sharp, unbearable. She gasped, clutching her stomach, feeling the warm trickle of blood beneath her trembling fingers. "Please, the baby," she sobbed, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan didn't look back. He stormed out into the rain, slamming the door behind him. Alone, Sophia reached out toward the crib she had lovingly set up just days earlier, her tears mixing with the blood on the floor. "Hold on, my little one," she whispered into the silence, but deep down she knew the storm had already taken everything. The sterile white walls of the hospital blurred before Sophia's swollen eyes as she blinked awake. Every breath felt heavy, every sound distant, the rhythmic beeping of the monitor, the murmur of nurses in the hall, the rain still falling outside. She reached instinctively for her belly, but the hollow silence that followed told her what her heart already knew. The child she had dreamed of holding, the tiny heartbeat she had cherished, was gone. A nurse quietly placed a hand on her shoulder, eyes full of pity. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Cole. The trauma was too severe." The words sliced through her like glass. Sophia turned her face away, tears pooling against the hospital pillow. She wanted to scream, to disappear, but all that escaped was a broken sob that echoed in the sterile room. Hours later, Ethan arrived, immaculate in a suit, as if he'd just come from a meeting, not the scene of a tragedy. His expression was cold, detached. "You should rest," he said flatly. "The doctors said you'll recover. Be grateful I didn't lose my company too." Sophia stared at him, her heart turning to stone. The man who once swore to protect her had destroyed everything she loved, and in that moment, her grief turned into something sharper, the beginning of silent, burning hatred. The hospital doors swung open with a force that made everyone turn. General Marcus Hayes, tall and commanding even in his late 50s, strode in with an authority that silenced the corridor. His military uniform wasn't necessary. His very presence radiated power. Nurses stepped aside as he demanded to see his daughter. When he entered Sophia's room, his steely composure shattered at the sight before him. His little girl, pale, bruised, and lifeless in a hospital bed, looked nothing like the vibrant woman he once knew. He moved to her side, taking her fragile hand into his own. "Who did this?" he asked, voice trembling not from weakness, but from restrained rage. Sophia couldn't speak. Her tears were answer enough. The sight of her silent suffering burned deeper than any wound Marcus had ever endured in battle. 4 years, he had been distant, believing that Sophia's marriage into wealth would protect her better than he ever could. But seeing her broken body, he realized his mistake. He had trusted a monster in a suit. That night Marcus made a vow, not whispered, but declared in his heart like a soldier's oath. Ethan Cole would not simply fall. He would be stripped of everything he cherished, his reputation, his empire, his legacy, until the entire nation saw the truth. This would not be vengeance fueled by rage, but justice carved by precision. And when it was done, Ethan would wish he had never crossed a Hayes. Marcus Hayes had never retired from strategy, only from the battlefield. Within days of his vow, his old military instincts awakened. He reconnected with his trusted intelligence circle, former officers and analysts who owed him favors from the old days. Together, they began dissecting Ethan Cole's empire with surgical precision. On the surface, Ethan's businesses gleamed with success: luxury real estate, international trade, and charity foundations. But beneath that polished image lay rot. Marcus's men uncovered secret accounts offshore, documents of tax evasion, fake charitable donations, and even hidden payoffs to silence competitors. Every piece of evidence painted Ethan not as a successful businessman, but as a criminal masquerading as a gentleman. Marcus catalogued everything: names, dates, transactions, building an airtight case that could bring down an empire. But vengeance for him wasn't about speed. It was about precision. He refused to simply expose Ethan. He wanted to break him psychologically, the way Ethan had broken Sophia. So the leaks began, slow, deliberate, and devastating. First a partner backed out of a deal, then an investor demanded an audit, and soon whispers began to spread in business circles. Meanwhile, Sophia healed under her father's watchful care, unaware of the quiet war unfolding behind closed doors. Marcus never told her, not yet. He wanted her peace untouched until the day she could look her abuser in the eye and see him powerless, destroyed by his own greed and the hand of the father who loved her beyond measure. The morning Ethan Cole woke up to his name splashed across national headlines, the world he had built on arrogance and deceit began to collapse like glass under pressure. "Coal Industries under federal investigation," screamed every major outlet. Newscasters repeated his crimes in loops: tax fraud, money laundering, forged contracts. His phone buzzed endlessly, not with support but with betrayal. Partners demanded explanations, investors pulled out, and his once loyal board members announced emergency meetings without him. Within hours, federal agents froze his bank accounts. His mansion, once filled with servants and laughter from extravagant parties, now echoed with silence and panic. Reporters surrounded his gate, cameras flashing as they shouted questions about his downfall. He slammed the windows shut, his heart racing, his arrogance cracking into fear. Ethan tried calling his lawyer, but even his legal team began to distance themselves. Everyone who had praised him yesterday treated him like a disease today. At night, he watched the news coverage replay his fall: leaked documents, secret recordings, and images of him smiling beside politicians he had bribed. He smashed the TV, screaming Marcus Hayes's name, though he had no proof. Deep down he knew it was him. Marcus had come back for vengeance, and this time no amount of wealth or power could save him. Every door that once opened for Ethan now slammed shut. For the first time in his life, the man who made everyone else kneel was the one being crushed under his own empire's weight. When Ethan Cole was finally dragged into court in handcuffs, the moment felt like poetic justice. The once celebrated millionaire who had ruled over business galas now stood under harsh fluorescent lights, wearing a wrinkled suit and a hollow expression. Reporters packed every inch of the courtroom, their cameras flashing like lightning. The crowd buzzed until the door opened and Sophia stepped inside. The room fell silent. Dressed in a simple white suit, she radiated quiet strength. No longer the frightened woman who once trembled under Ethan's control, she walked with dignity, her father's presence steady behind her. When she took the witness stand, her voice didn't shake. She recounted the nights of verbal abuse, the bruises hidden under makeup, the way he destroyed her spirit piece by piece, and the night she lost her baby. Gasps filled the courtroom. Ethan's lawyers objected repeatedly, trying to paint her as unstable, but their words fell flat against the undeniable evidence Marcus's team had collected. Photos, medical reports, recordings, and financial proof of Ethan's crimes. When the judge finally spoke, his tone was grave. "Ethan Cole, you are found guilty on all charges: corporate fraud, assault, and abuse." The crowd erupted. Sophia closed her eyes, tears slipping silently down her face, not from sorrow but release. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice low and firm. "Justice at last." For the first time in years, Sophia felt free. The aftermath of the trial swept through the nation like wildfire. Every news channel replayed Sophia's testimony, her calm yet powerful words echoing across living rooms, offices, and schools. Social media erupted with hashtags like #JusticeForSophia and #StandWithSurvivors, transforming her story into a movement. Talk shows invited experts to discuss domestic abuse awareness, and charities began campaigns inspired by her resilience. Marcus was hailed as a national hero, not just for his military service, but for standing up for his daughter when the system once failed her. Politicians referenced the case during parliamentary debates, pushing for stricter laws protecting women from domestic violence. For countless victims who had suffered in silence, Sophia became a symbol of hope, proof that courage could dismantle even the most powerful abusers. Meanwhile, Ethan's empire crumbled beyond repair. His name was erased from company buildings, luxury brands cut all ties, and his former allies avoided his calls. The mansion that once symbolized his wealth was auctioned off, every dollar used to fund shelters for abused women, at Marcus's request. As Sophia stood before a sunrise one morning, breathing freely for the first time in years, she realized the truth. Her pain had sparked a revolution, and her freedom had become her greatest victory. Months turned into seasons, and Sophia began to find light again. Therapy, time, and purpose became her medicine. The foundation she built grew rapidly, a safe haven for women who had endured the same horrors she once faced. She poured her pain into action, visiting shelters, giving speeches, and offering comfort to those who thought their lives were over. Each story she heard reminded her how far she had come, from broken and voiceless to strong and fearless. General Marcus, though still stern and watchful, softened every time he saw his daughter smile. He often attended her events quietly, staying at the back of the crowd, his heart swelling with pride. The woman who once wept in silence now stood before cameras and audiences, giving others the courage to rise. It was during one of those outreach programs that Sophia met Dr. Andrew Lawson, a psychologist known for his empathy and quiet strength. His words didn't try to fix her, they helped her heal. He listened more than he spoke, and in his presence Sophia felt safe, something she hadn't known in years. Over coffee and shared stories, friendship blossomed into something gentle and real. For the first time, she dared to believe that love, the kind built on kindness and respect, could still exist. The garden glowed under the golden hues of sunset, its calm beauty a stark contrast to the pain it represented. Sophia knelt before a small marble plaque engraved with her baby's name, a name she had never spoken aloud until now. Softly she traced the letters, her tears falling not from grief, but from peace. The gentle rustle of flowers and the distant sound of birds filled the silence, as if the world itself was offering her comfort. Marcus stood beside her, his strong frame silhouetted against the fading light. When he rested his hand on her shoulder, his voice trembled, something rare for the hardened general. "He took your child," he said, eyes glistening, But he'll never take your strength. You carried pain with grace, and turned it into power. I couldn't be prouder. Andrew joined them quietly, holding a bouquet of white lilies, symbols of purity and remembrance. He placed them near the plaque, then took Sophia's hand in his, steady and warm. In that moment, she felt surrounded by love, the kind she once believed didn't exist. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Sophia looked toward the sky and whispered with a bittersweet smile, "For you, my little one, we won." The wind carried her words like a promise, a vow sealed by peace, justice, and an unbreakable spirit.